I love stuff like that. I hope you enjoyed the B-roll. Hope I got something good out of that. Let's get back to my studio and start the video. So today I was going to share all the pro apps on my iPad. I really want to get into iPad and how amazing it is and how I've switched pretty much completely. I use my MacBook for uploading YouTube videos and for a few website based things, but that's about it. I'll get to that, but today I want to share a little bit about wide angle photography. The reason why I want to get into that is because I have this Canon 10 to 18 millimeter, and I mentioned in a video the other day, hopefully I'll remember to put a card up here to link to that video. I've adapted it for my Fujifilm with this Fujifilm adapter. All I've done is I mounted it to my Canon camera, switch the Canon camera on obviously, and on the camera I've set it to 10 millimeter because you can only have one focal distance, because once it's set to that specific focal length. So I thought 10 mil, then I get the full wide angle like an action camera style shot, and then I set the focus. So I've set the focus to sort of my vlogging distance, but because it's wide angle and the aperture is at about 4.5, it's pretty much set for all photography. Anything from me to the distance of the camera is in focus. So I set it on my camera, set the autofocus, switch the camera off, and then that autofocus point, that point of focus is set permanently. I'm sure from bumping around it'll go out from time to time. So the only downside is you do need a Canon camera handy to keep the lens in focus every now and again, to refocus it and to set it. So eventually I will need the 12,000 Rand Fujifilm lens, but for now it's a great option for me to go cheap. But to get to the point of the video, I want to share a few tips that I've learned for wide angle photography. 2 tips in particular. The first tip is to have a foreground subject. So I was today, and the reason why I decided just to share these pointers is because I kind of forgot that I had this for photography specifically, and I had it in my bag, and I happened to be doing a shoot in a factory. So a fabrication factory, big warehouse, sparks flying everywhere. And once I'd gone through with my 35 millimeter, I thought to myself it would be really nice to get the whole room, and then I remembered this 10 millimeter. When you're shooting with a 35 millimeter, you've got that depth of field. That is your secret weapon with a 35 millimeter with a nice wide aperture, is that focal distance. Whereas with this, you don't have that. You don't have a nice depth of field. You don't have a nice subject isolation. What you do have is to put something in the foreground, which will probably blur, which will give you that slight depth of field effect, and then have your subject in focus, whether it's somebody working in the factory or I was getting the lines in the roof. That little foreground subject, in this case it was a piece of metal or a piece of machinery. It drew the viewer into the image and made it not just a shot of a thing that won't draw you in. Once you see a foreground, you feel like, okay, I'm looking at something, there's something in the way, and it draws the viewer into the image. The second point is to play with lines. This is an architectural photography tip, to always play with the lines. And in my case, it wasn't necessarily leading to a subject. Maybe the roof was leading to them working on the crane or whatever. But in my case, I was just using those lines to create a bit of to show you the expanse of the warehouse and to make it seem impressive for the clients. Play with lines. The lines will always create a bit of depth and will lead the viewer to your subject. That was a very quick video, mainly because I'm no expert. Those are just very quick tips for a beginner to get started with wide angle photography. Thank you so much for watching my video. These videos are always intended to inspire young creatives and old creatives, anyone getting started with photography or music, anything creative related around technology. My passion is to demystify that technology so that you can get out there and be creative. Please subscribe to my channel, please like this video, and I'll see you in the next one.
Falling for your innocence, acting like you're into me. I know this is hopeless, moving in slow motion, trying to control my thoughts, but I can't stop our body talk. This is a no-go, I just can't